conversation focusing on persons with disabilities, persons with neurodivergence, and how we make our community more accessible for Bowie. So today we have an amazing panel that is here and ready to discuss this topic, and our mission really is to foster a climate of mutual respect amongst different people in Bowie, and this is one of the activities that we offer to do that, and we offer it throughout the year. So this is our second one for the year, and we hope to have at least one or two more before the end of the year. I'm accompanied here today with my colleague on the Diversity Committee, Ms. Elvita Dixon, who will be facilitating the panel. And we are just super happy to have you. So it's a jam-packed agenda, and we want to get started. But first, before we turn it over to Ms. Elvita, I want to ask the mayor if there's anything you would like to say to welcome or open up the space.
I really appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening. I want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for all you do within our communities. We're a community that brings together all of us, no matter what the challenges we may face. And I'm very proud to be the mayor of Bowie. I'm very proud to be here tonight and to be able to be an example of not allowing ourselves to be limited by what other people think and say. So on that point, I'll turn it back over to you, but thank you for allowing me to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you. And then, Ms. Elvita, I will turn it over to you to facilitate our panel.
Okay, thank you, Tiffany.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for being with us this evening. We really appreciate your support, and we are so glad that each and every one of you can be with us this evening to talk about this important topic of neurodivergence and disability. And so some of you may or may not be familiar with neurodivergence. Neurodivergence is just the way that we do things differently, the way our brains operate differently. And so if you have not been diagnosed as neurodivergent, then you would be considered neurotypical. However, there are many of us who have not been diagnosed, but yet we could all be considered differently because of our abilities that we have. And what we want to do is to help people to understand that we all have different abilities and help people to see our different abilities as opposed to thinking about persons with a disability. Because neurodivergence does not necessarily mean that a person has a disability. It can be, but it's not always the case. And it is, there are a lot of different types of neurodivergence, and hopefully some of our panelists shed some light on some of those areas as they speak for you this evening. Now, I do want to just let you know that April is Autism Acceptance Month, and this is the last day of April, but April is Autism Acceptance Month, and autism is a type of neurodivergence. And so that's why I'm wearing red, because red is in support of Autism Acceptance Month. As we get started this evening, I just want to tell you a little bit about the process. We have 4 questions that we will be asking our panelists tonight. We will ask the questions one at a time, and each panelist will have 2 minutes, just 2 minutes. And I thought Lori was going to be in here watching the time, but I think Tiffany's going to help me out here. And she will raise her hand when you have only 30 seconds left. So if you just watch for Tiffany's hand, and when you have 30 seconds left, then that will let you know that it's time to start wrapping it up. And after we have asked all 4 questions, and each panelist has had an opportunity to answer all 4 questions, Then we will have a lightning round. And in the lightning round, each panelist will only get 1 minute to answer the question. And then we will wrap it up. Okay, so are we ready to begin? Everyone ready for this great conversation this evening? Okay. All right, so I am going to start with the mayor of the city of Bowie, and I'm going to let him go first, and then I will call the other panelists. We do have here, we have a Bowie State University student, Lynette Jones. We have Desi Cooper-Machado, who is neurodivergent. We have her parent, who is here, who is Machado-Luces. And we also have from the Prince George's County Association for the Deaf, Terese Rognmo. And I hope I pronounced your name correctly. And so these will be our panelists for this evening. So I'm going to start with the mayor, and each one of you will be able to answer the question, and I will direct the questions as we go forward. The first question is, who are you, and how does your ability affect the way that you move through Bowie, Maryland, the U.S., and the world?
Well, good evening. I'm Timothy Adams. As you heard, I'm the mayor of the city of Bowie, but I'm also the president and CEO of Systems Application and Technologies. How I moved through the city has been one that has been a journey for me as someone who has an ability that's different than others. It's hard to get transportation at times. One of the things I found when I came to the city of Bowie, even here in City Hall and other places, just moving through City Hall was almost impossible until we started putting in the doors now that are activated that help those with abilities that are different to get in and out. It's the same thing with curb size and things of that nature. How we address issues with going around, and I was able to go around through all parts of the city and actually determine those things that were really accessible and those that weren't. Because sometimes we think they are, but they aren't. And so I've been able to do that and provide the city with those kind of things. And so moving through is hard. I have to make special accommodations. Everywhere does not. For example, I drive with hand controls and other things to get around to be self-sufficient, but not everywhere has that. It can be difficult when I travel on the airlines and other things. So it gets to be a challenge, but I think we're getting better at it. And if you just look at City Hall now, I think we've done a good job of trying to accommodate some of the abilities, the different abilities that some of us have.
Thank you, Mayor Adams, and certainly your ability has given you a different perspective and approach to how you look at things. And many times people don't often think of persons with different abilities if they are not affected by the ability. So I appreciate your perspective. This has definitely been something that's positive for the city of Bowie, and in terms of making a lot of the buildings and the sidewalks and everything accessible. And we can see the improvements. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, my next question will go to Machado-Luces, and I will repeat the question for you. Who are you, and how does your ability affect the way you move through Bowie, Maryland, the U.S., and the world?
Okay, hello, I am Ms. Desi Machado-Luces. I am a parent first. And I'm also a filmmaker and a television producer. I work for Prince George's Community College. I'm the senior producer at our television station. And my ability and skill set is very unique. I'm a parent of a person who is neurodivergent. I believe I'm neurodivergent. I know my husband swears by that now. But there is a way, it's a lifestyle of inclusivity. I have a niece that has been deaf since she was born, and I practically raised her. So learning how to communicate with someone that cannot hear is really important, and it probably dictates how I raised my children and the way that I live my life in and around students and in the work that I do, making sure that there are accommodations for my interviewees if they need it, making certain that we do the correct, we title things correctly, and we make sure, like you have welcomed us into your space, that I make sure that I welcome anyone that is doing me the honor of allowing me to interview them or do any work with them, to treat them with dignity and respect and equity.
Okay, thank you very much, and we certainly appreciate all of the support that you are giving this community. Okay, the next person that I am going to call on is, I'm going to call on Mimi's daughter, Desi Cooper-Machado. And who are you? And how does your ability affect the way you move through Bowie, Maryland, the U.S., and the world?
Hi, my name is Desi Cooper-Machado, and I'm a young woman diagnosed with autism. It affects how I move or get around other people and how I communicate with other people, and especially those who are out of the country, and I do speak Spanish and English, and I trans, and I try to, there's sometimes I fit in, and I don't fit in because of my ability, and I was and I went to several different schools. I started Benjamin Floyd's since I was in first grade, so there are other people like me who are closer to my age, and there are sometimes I want a very nice female friend to play with me because I'm more of a feminine type girl, and I have other best friends who are boys as well, and I was and I try my best to control my anxieties and stress disorders, and I think about certain movies or TV shows from the past in my head, and I make my own version of it. Yeah, and I was and I like certain things and I dislike certain things, and more like my mom than I am like my dad, because I have a certain style, personality, and I eat certain amount of foods, and I do get along with my brother very well, and when I see stuff I don't like, I just think of ways to stop them. I just don't want to go too violent, and I do want to, yeah. And I just I do want to be me, and I'm I'm diagnosed with autism.
Thank you so much for sharing and in helping us to understand some of the challenges that are involved. Thank you. Okay, the next person I'm going to turn it over to is Terese Rognmo. And who are you, and how does your ability affect the way you move through Bowie, Maryland, the U.S., and the world?
Well, first of all, good evening. My name is Terese. I actually was born deaf. Can everyone see me okay? And if you can, I'm assuming you probably look at the screen. But I was born actually in Norway. I actually was born into a hearing family, and I'm the only one that is deaf. My family really had us to sign and talk at the same time. Most of them would sign and talk at the same time. I was mainstream in the school. As a teenager, moved to Canada with my dad, graduated high school there in Canada. At the time, my identity I didn't have quite figured out then. I was in more so with hearing culture, hearing people, other hearing people, and didn't have exactly the best access until I got into the University of Gallaudet, and I got a degree in social work, also a master's degree in social work. And that's kind of when I started to find my identity, identify more with my culture, my history, and so on and so forth, as a person who is there. And so when I was able, I moved here, and I saw the challenges here in terms of access. It wasn't completely accessible. There were issues with being 100% accessible. And so really compared to others, I noticed it was not. Most of the hearing people in here are they can, depending on being able to hear, and whereas a deaf individual, not really so much. So I noticed that when it comes to deaf and blind and hard of hearing people, having full communication access is needed.
Thank you. You mentioned that you said you were mainstreamed when you were in school. Can you say a little bit more about that experience to help us understand what that was like for you?
Well, two things to compare is mainstream and going to school with an all-deaf school at a deaf institution. The education was good, mainstream, but the feeling of being alone, kind of isolated, not with others who are also deaf, and also not having access to the best interpreters. The model would be to hire, really they would hire just those who do the basics. And they're not really being able to meet the quality that's expected of an interpreter. Sometimes that's the experience that happens in the mainstream setting, and it's not completely accessible. Whereas at a whole deaf school, where everyone's deaf, access is there, language is there, being with others who are equally yoked, so to speak, is also there. So today, things have really changed for the deaf and hard of hearing as it relates to being mainstream and being able to get full access, in that kind of mainstream setting is limited. So that model is really not the best, and it doesn't provide the best resources. And depending on which school district we're talking about.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that. So having that accessibility can really change the experience that you have. And also, it sounds like you were not getting the support that you had when you went to Gallaudet and you were with the deaf community. And those feelings of isolation, thank you for helping us to understand some of those experiences. Okay, the next question is going to, the next panelist that I'm going to with the first question, is Lynette Jones. And if you could tell us, who are you and how does your ability affect the way you move through Bowie, Maryland, the U.S., and the world?
Okay. So once again, I am Lynette Jones. I am first generation, a college student at Bowie State University. And my ability is that I am deaf in my right ear. I was born like that. Whatever happened with my parents, it kind of got passed down to me. Both of my parents were hearing. So I've kind of navigated through the school system in D.C. Differently because I was born and raised in Washington, D.C. But as far as navigating through Bowie State, as a social work major, you have to take 2 ASL classes in order to graduate. And with that, I would say it was very beneficial to me because if today or tomorrow I would go deaf in my left ear, I would really need to use ASL, especially, even if I'm not a professional, I'm proficient enough to hold a conversation. So I would say, even with that, I took my time to learn ASL to navigate through the Bowie State University. But as far as like United States, I would say it's beneficial because people don't take the time to learn American Sign Language. And, you know, I'm taking the time to do that as a student. And then plus, it's a coincidence I happen to be deaf and going to Bowie State and they had it. And so I just took it with a leap of faith that, you know, it's going to help me and the targeted population that I'm working with, because I'm not only going to be working with African Americans that's hearing or, you know, other races, but I'm going to be working with people with disabilities, or they may be completely deaf, and I may have to help step in and talk to them and use, you know, my skills with ASL throughout Bowie State to assist with their needs. So, yeah, I think that would be very beneficial, especially since I was born and raised in Washington, D.C., I went to a public and private school, but majority private. And with that, wouldn't say I classified myself with being deaf, because I navigated my way through school. So I would sit up front, or I would be very attentive, or I would talk to the teacher on the side or whatever, like anything that would help me. And I did go through the process of going to the audiologist and getting a hearing aid, but I just wasn't comfortable with it. And eventually I got to the age where I didn't want to wear the hearing aid. And I was just like, you know, may God be with me. And I'm just use my left ear the best I can, and, you know, trying to learn ASL. But, you know, God rest my mom. She did try to put me in Gallaudet when I was younger. And I kind of got scared off because it was my first time, but she knew what was best and didn't force me. And like I said, it came back around later in life, and I'm, you know, now 25 learning ASL for my major. So I think it's very beneficial in all areas, Bowie State, United States, and the world.
Okay. Thank you for letting us know the importance of learning ASL. And again, a lot of folks don't make that a priority. And I don't know that it's even taught in our schools. And that's probably something that should be taught in the schools at an earlier age, in the secondary schools and the primary grades and all of that. Do you know if whether anyone can take ASL classes at Bowie State University?
Well, we have an ASL club, and I'm the president of that. So, of course, you can join. Everybody's open to join. We don't kick anybody out. But as far as like taking ASL as a class, you will have to be a social work major. But it's 2 tracks. It's either Spanish or social work. So, yeah, that's as far as I know.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, question number 2. I'm going to ask this of Terese. What would you like others to know about you as they relate to you as a person who is deaf?
Okay. I wanted to mention something that she had just mentioned, Desi, that you were just mentioned. I'd like to touch base on that. Signing is so valuable and beneficial. For me, growing up as in an oral family where everyone was speaking, like 95% of deaf children are born to hearing families, 5% or less are from deaf families having native language users in their family. We don't have full communication with our moms and dads. People don't realize that. I have to lip read, that I can't hear what they're saying. And often in the propensity of the hospitals, they tend to focus on the audiological aspect, hearing aids, cochlear implants, learning how to speak. And the parents of deaf children, I mean, they can learn conversational sign, but to be bilingual, there's no quality. So encouraging children to learn how to sign and pick up ASL. If you want to use speech later, secondary, like myself, I was taught to use speech. I was very language delayed. I didn't really understand the content of what people were saying. I'm lip reading. I don't really know what you're talking about. Like, what do you mean? No one's really signing to me. I wasn't really exposed to the language visually until much later. And then I was like, aha, now I'm starting to get this. But like I said, I was raised orally to read lips. And I really encourage all of you for communication accessibility to expose everyone to sign language. But here at Bowie, it's Not really all deaf people read lips, just to let you know. I think about 30% of deaf people have skills of reading lips. And I know that's miscommunication, but oftentimes the deaf people are reading your lips, but they don't understand what you're saying. And when you look at them, and they're looking at you in the headlights, or looking at you, you're looking at the deaf person, and then they say, oh, are you not understanding me? And they're like, why didn't you write it down? And I'm like, okay, it's very frustrating for me as a deaf person. Because sometimes we don't have to respond to one another, the hearing and deaf. So actually what would be nice is if people in the hearing population in general, like the internet, all this information is readily available. There's so many workshops in the area. The deaf community provides so much accessibility for hearing people to learn about our language and our culture. And that is how we get a better understanding of the community in the entire Bowie community.
Thank you very much for giving us that information so that we can.
Also, do you mind if I add one more thing?
Go ahead, yes.
Let's get back to the school system with mainstream students. Many of the students are language deprived. The hearing people in general, with regard to deaf children, most people and educators don't have proper training in deaf education. They don't have any actual knowledge of the culture, the language, the community, and they just go ahead and take a deaf person, call it mainstream, plop them in a regular classroom, and they are so language deprived while experiencing the public school system. And that struggle continues throughout their experience. So maybe if you meet someone who's deaf in the community, maybe like an older generation, they are definitely more exposed to the situation that had language depravity. The newer generation, yeah, as you can understand, the accessibility is much more advanced with a reduction in language barriers compared to the older generations.
Thank you for giving us that information because these are the kinds of things that will help us to be more understanding of the deaf community and be able to interact better with you so that we are able to learn together and grow together and have a better experience for everyone. Thank you. Okay, the next question I'm going to go to, with this question, excuse me, I'm going to go back to the mayor. What would you like others to know about you as they relate to your ability?
I think the main thing that really want others to understand is that going back to what you opened up with, and I think that's so important for all of us to realize, and that is I have a different ability. You know, we have to understand that you want people to know that you're not any different than anyone else. There are things you have to do, there are accommodations you need, but you really want people to understand that you're a whole person. You know, you make accommodations, you do what you need to do, but you want people to just accept you for who you are. You know, and accept that different is good. You know, that there's an opportunity. I've been very fortunate, I tell people, that I ended up a paraplegic. And the reason I say that, and it's really important for people to understand that, you know, until you experience that, you know, I thought I knew what it was to have a different ability. You know, and what you learn real quickly, and what I try to get people to understand, is that, you know, when we talk about the different abilities, that it's not about the letter of the law, but the spirit of the law. That when we talk about making accommodations and doing those things, it's about so that all of us can join together and we can get all of the benefits of each individual, because we all have our own unique talents. And that's what I really want people to understand, that no matter what we may see as a different ability, that we're all part of the same family, we're part of the same community, and we can all learn from each other.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Adams. So seeing the person first before seeing the different ability and seeing the unique talents and skills and really understanding the person. And that's important, because a lot of times, particularly when you're talking about persons with disabilities, And you're talking about even with neurodivergence, people think that it's an illness to be treated or cured, as opposed to looking at the person and doing what is good to help people to be able to be successful, to be more effective, to communicate better with one another, so that we can understand each other better, giving people what they need to be successful, as opposed to trying to cure the different ability.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, the next question, I'm going to go to Desi. What would you like others to know about you as they relate to you and your ability? You said you're a person who has autism, okay?
Okay. I want people to know that I use methods to help me calm down whenever I'm upset or I don't get my way because somebody wants me to do something I don't want to do. And I like to tap and I do hug, but not certain people who don't like hugs and who don't really want to hug. And also, I like to stand up to bullies who take advantage of my autism or don't accept me for who I am. And there's sometimes I fight them off using my anxiety and stress to show them how I feel, and there are other times I don't because it's too violent and I don't want to get I don't want to get prisoned, and yeah, I don't want to be sent to jail. And I do like to make friends with certain people around the world, like Caucasian people, African American, certain Spanish people, and Asian people, and other people with disabilities, like any type of color, and I do like to hang out with boys, but I mostly like to hang out with girls because women deserve better, and I deserve a female friend to talk to, very best friend, yeah. And
Thank you. Just to clarify, did you say that you do like hugs or you don't like hugs?
I do.
You do like.
I'm a hugger.
Okay.
I just don't like hugging certain people.
Yeah, okay. So you're a friendly person and you do like to hug, but just not everybody. Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going back to Lynette. What would you like others to know about you as they relate to your ability?
I would say, well, off the top of my head, it comes off, if I don't tell you, you won't know, because I'm normal just like you. You don't have to, push me away or act funny because, I'm deaf in one ear. And sometimes I've felt, and I'm learning that maybe that was the case in the past. Maybe because, I'm still trying to learn how to maneuver throughout the world and, the society. And usually if I have, friends and stuff like that, they'll come try to talk to me in my right ear and I turn and they don't know. And it's like, then I have to sit down and do the whole talk. And it's like, I shouldn't even have to do that. If I do something or I give you a signal to show you like, I'm not comfortable with you talking in my right ear or you being on the right of me, I want you to always sit on the left, then, you should treat that accordingly and, love me as I am. But as far as like the other people who relate to me with my ability, I would say don't feel bad. I would say even with treatment or without treatment, you're perfectly fine. And you can still do whatever you want if you put your mind to it and not let haters get to you.
Okay, thank you very much. I like what you said about being normal. And just because you have a different ability does not mean abnormal, that you are normal and you want to be respected. And so when you make a request, you want people to honor that. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, to Mimi, question number 2, what would you like others to know about you as, and I don't know if you have a different ability, but you are a parent with the person who has autism. So how would you like others to, what would you like others to know about you or?
Like, I really appreciate what you said about people's abilities not being a disease. And so I don't use the word, I'm a normal person or you're a normal person, because really what is normal? I am a person with an extremely huge background of, I speak Spanish fluently. My father was deaf in one ear as well. I have a niece who was deaf since birth, and I have a daughter who's neurodivergent. I have nieces and nephews that I'm certain are neurodivergent, and I have a husband with mobility issues. And so the world of abilities is always a very open and a fun place to be, because humanity is beautiful. There is no, what I don't like is people that don't accept other people. And that's about really the worst thing you can do is put somebody else down, not accept someone for this or that, and not accommodate people or give people grace for the challenges that they might have to go through to be in your space or you in their space. So my view is, I've been an educator, I'm a filmmaker, I have this wide array of things that I've been through, and still I'm still learning, and I've learned so much here just listening to everyone else, even listening to Desi, even though I live with her and we've been together all her life. There are things that she expresses in front of an entire audience that I'm like, oh wow, I didn't know that. And sometimes it's embarrassing because I think I'm underestimating her, but I know that she's gonna do what is best for her, because I feel like I've done my best in raising her. So.
Okay, thank you. So I like what you said, different is normal. And that's why we're having these conversations though, because the understanding is what is important. And we are having these conversations for that very reason, so that we can better understand each other. Okay, question number 3, I'm going to give that to Terese. How should we talk about the deaf community, and what words should we use or not use when referring to the deaf community?
Sure. So, first of all, the deaf community typically prefers to be known as being deaf first and hard of hearing and then blind. I encourage us to not use the word or the term hearing impaired because, or deaf mute. Really encourage you to ask, that communication question. The question might be, what's your communication preferences? How do you label yourself? Because assuming is not the way to go. Deaf people, just like anyone else, have their own preferred ways of being identified and being labeled. Me, for one, I'm deaf, and so that's the way that I prefer to be identified. And it's respectful to allow a person to tell you how they prefer to be identified and to how to communicate. Because communication is different, just like everyone doesn't sign the same. ASL has its own accent, its own particular ways. It's not homogeneous in nature. Sign language is not the same, it's very different. And it also can be dependent upon region or by state. So some communities, for example, for the BIPOC community, they have their own ways of signing. It's called Black Sign Language, BSL, right? So they have a way that they may sign. Generally, ASL may be used in the general community, PSE, and different ways of signing. There's even signed exact English, which is a word for word. And then there's also huge speech. So there's just a ton of differences there. There's no right or wrong way. The goal with talking, right, is communication and being comfortable with that. And I think that's what we need to stick to.
Okay, thank you very much. Ask for communication preferences. I'm going to ask Lynette if you have anything to add to that question.
Okay. I would say another term is deaf mute. So usually it's obviously outdated, and it applies that a deaf person cannot speak, and it's very offensive. So as a person, I kind of have like the best of both worlds, but hearing like the different terms that you're not supposed to call the what is it? I lost my whole train of thought. What is it?
It's okay.
Hard of hearing. My apologies. It's like they still use it blatantly, and it's like they don't have no regard. So it's a lot of terms that should be outdated. Like what's another one? Deaf, disabled. Like the other panelist said, normal, because there's no such thing as normal. Because how can you classify that person as normal? Because it's different stages to it. And I would say, yeah, that's about it. But it's so many more terms to go around.
Okay, thank you. Mimi, how should we talk about different abilities from your experience? What words should we use or not use when we're talking about persons who are neurodivergent?
Well, like Terese, I believe that you should ask. I believe that you should ask a person how they identify. I love this generation at this point with when I first started at the college, we had to go through, like if you're in management, you go through training class, and we had someone from Human Rights Campaign come and explain all the different pronouns and why using that. And they went into the different disabilities. And that's when I started hearing neurodivergence more. And I was like, that's better, because there was a time where saying this person's autistic is sometimes it could be like an accusation. And I didn't like using it, saying to people, like maybe the first thing, my daughter's autistic. That's not the way I would like to identify her, and I would rather her tell me, how would you like me to say that? Would you like me to explain to people, or do you want to explain it yourself? And I think that explaining and asking a person is the most dignified way to be able to start a conversation and really spark learning between two people, learning about each other and learning another culture. Because with everything, American Sign Language, ASL, is a language. And all of the different languages that they spoke about, that is a form of communication that we have to honor that title of a language. It's the way that we communicate with each other. Without it, we're not talking, and we end up isolated. So, I like that.
Thank you. Absolutely. And with neurodivergence, it's a very broad term.
Yes.
And it includes so many things. Autism is just one of the things. I mean, persons who are dyslexic or have dyslexia, that is considered. Persons who have different motor abilities, that is part of neurodivergence. And persons who have been diagnosed with ADHD, or maybe who have anxieties, that's also considered neurodivergence. It's a very broad category. The problem is that when we put labels on people, we start treating people as the label, as opposed to looking at the person. And so we do have to be careful when labels are used. They can be sometimes useful in terms of getting accommodations and for accessibility. However, again, we have to be very careful about that. Okay. Did I ask Desi this question yet?
Is there any way I can interject something? Oh, I'm sorry. Do you mind?
Could you, go ahead. 30 seconds, because we want to leave time for the audience.
How do you define normal? Both of you have said that there's a spectrum. You know, there's also visual disabilities like deafness, autism, learning disabilities. So it's the mask of disability. You don't always identify who and what the disability is with the person. So how can we, on the onset, define what normality is?
I would define it as different. Because we're all different. Thank you. Desi, yes.
Okay.
We should say we have autism instead of autistic and so on. I learned that from my middle school teacher, Miss Deidre Raybuck. And normal is when somebody has a disability, but they do normal things. And you think just because people have disabilities doesn't mean they are considered abnormal. Some people with disabilities are normal and others are not, and just don't want to be too normal because people are very special, yeah. And we do have, and other people with special needs have a certain school special needs, like Kenya Krieger Middle School and High School, and there are other public schools with certain classrooms for students with disabilities, and I transferred from a public school in Benjamin near Andrews Air Force Base, and to a person with special needs, Kennedy Krieger School in Baltimore. Yeah, and they're in Kennedy Krieger, Montgomery County as well. And people should not be taken advantage of all because they have a certain disability that they can't deal with. People must respect people no matter if they have a disability or not. Yeah.
Thank you. So respecting one another and avoiding words such as abnormal, that's what we want to do. Okay? Mayor Adams?
I think just the one word that I think strikes a chord with me is when I'm referred to as being crippled. When people call me a cripple. And, you know, when people ask me, when did I become a cripple, you know, I sometimes am not as tolerant as I should be. And, you know, my question is basically, I don't know, I didn't realize I was. You know, and so that's one of the things that I find that when we start kind of generalizing people and doing things, those are some of the things, because it makes a connotation that when you hear that term that can be referred to so many different people in so many different situations, I think it tries to minimize one's capabilities. You know, because I think not being able to walk does not do anything to hamper my ability to think and to do that. And even there is the opportunity that we're you know, being very candid, I think we're all on the spectrum. And if you went through every one of us in here, you could probably find them on the spectrum somewhere. And so that's just a reality of where we are. You know, and it goes back to, and I guess the last thing, as I talked about before, I think everyone has said it, just ask. Just ask how you would like to be referred to, or what the challenge is that you may face. Is a good way to discuss and to have people to understand really what is the issue and what are your challenges. So.
You're absolutely right, because we don't always know, and it's okay not to know, but it's not okay not to communicate with people and try to understand and to ask and find out. And you're so correct that there were so many derogatory terms used to refer to persons with different abilities. For example, referring to a person who has different developmental ability as mentally retarded. And that was, you know, a term that was used for many, many years. And so again, it's not, those kinds of labels really don't speak to the abilities of the person, and they are limiting, as you said. And as you said, we're all on the spectrum. I have a couple of statistics. 1 in every 44 8-year-olds one in every 44, let me say that again, 1 in every 44 8-year-olds has been diagnosed with autism. It's 4.2 times more common in boys. All kids, out of all children, 9.4% have been diagnosed with ADHD. 20% of the population has been diagnosed with dyslexia, and 11% are persons with disabilities. And we haven't really talked that much about mental disability as much, persons with different mental abilities or disabilities, because we didn't have a panelist this time. Hopefully we will bring that into our next panel discussion. Okay. Did I get everyone with question 3? I think I did. Okay. All right. Lightning round, because we want to leave a little time for the audience. So give me 30 seconds. Closing remarks. How do we move forward as a diverse community to ensure everyone has accessibility to opportunity, events, and community? I think that much of this was already said. Mayor Adams, I want you to kind of close us out on that, since we're talking about the city of Bowie and making it more accessible.
The one thing we have to go back to is treating each other with just basic common courtesy and common decency. That's what it's about. It's about bringing us together and recognizing that we're all of the same race, the human race, and that's real. And just accepting that, and just being who we are, and accepting people and being tolerant of our fellow man.
Thank you. And Terese and Lynette, how would you encourage more people to become familiar or get classes in ASL or to learn more about the deaf community? Just give me one thing, one thing from each one of you, and then we're going to open it back up to the audience for questions.
I'll handle that. Don't be afraid to be open-minded, and feel free to contact Prince George's Community Association for the Deaf. And we also have a Center for Deafness, and we have so much information, so many resources, such great advocacy. And if you have any questions or are curious, just go ahead and reach out to us and we can answer that for you.
Okay, thank you.
I would say provide ASL interpreters in public, so that way other people like the hearing community will be able to understand the importance of ASL, because not everybody can hear, and you know, it's other ways, other forms of communication besides ear, and so I think that's important.
Thank you. Mimi and Desi, one thing for neurodivergence that we could do.
I think having more conversations like these, that's just being able to hear each other and make community.
Okay.
I really believe in community.
Thank you. Desi, one thing?
Well, we should all be in the same room and or in classrooms, or people with disabilities should be able to get along with other students who don't have disabilities. Like I go up to a certain class with more than a few students without disability when I was in BFTA, so I can get along with the other students at the normal grades instead of just the C-set.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Trying to get along with each other better. Thank you very much. Okay, I want to thank the panelists for your enlightening responses, and now I want to open it up to the audience. If the audience has any questions, we will bring the mic to you, and if you can keep your comments to 1 minute.
We'll go to the
Oh,
mic.
they're going to go to the mic?
And before we open it up for audience participation, I do want to invite a resource in our community who can talk about things that may be available for everyone. If you want to come up to this mic.
Hi, good evening. I'm very happy to be the center mic. County, and the operative word here is free, right? It says family counseling is very expensive. We offer it free. Other than family counseling, we do community work. So we're in both our middle schools working with mentors. We're in our high school working with mentors, and we've been doing this since 2002. We do groups, parenting, girls groups, ADHD education, social skills, anger management, and grief groups. I'm the prevention coordinator, so what I do in high schools and elementary and middle schools is bring awareness of substance use and abuse to our students and give them other resources that they could go for instead of substances. So that is what we do.
Thank you. Can you give them your name again, please?
Oh, Rhonda Simon.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Rhonda.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions from the audience? Okay, yes, if you could come up to the mic.
I don't have questions, comments. Or you just take a question?
If we don't have any questions, you can come up and make a comment.
Am I going to this one right here?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if I should turn this way because I don't have a question. Okay. Well, hello, my name is Jennifer Alston. I am live in the Bowie community, but I'm also a former caregiver to, excuse me, I don't want to get emotional, to my nephew with autism. He passed away about 4 months ago. And I wanted to say thank you for everyone having this discussion, but at the same time, I think it needs to be a part 2 of this discussion because there's a side of autism that people don't talk about. There's a side of different disabilities that people don't discuss, and a lot of these people, which was my nephew, they couldn't speak up for themselves. So what happens is they become isolated. You don't see a lot of people with the other side of autism. And I think it's okay to call people who have autism if they're okay with that, but they can't speak up for themselves and say that. So I respect people who don't want to be called that, but the whole neurodiverse thing doesn't always apply to the whole spectrum. So my point is, they don't have a place in the community. I would have to drive out of Bowie and PG County to find recreational opportunities and places for him to go. I had to kind of make my own resources, make my own activities where, for example, the Bowie Community Center, they had a sensory room and they took it out. And I called the director of it and they decided to do away with it. And they were charging $40 an hour for people with disabilities to come to the center. It should not have been $40 an hour. It should have been free. So I was very taken back by that. And I was like, that's another minus of something that they had to participate in. So I don't want to take up your time, but that's kind of where my thoughts are. Well, what about the people who can't speak up for themselves? They need to be included also. And I know that requires another discussion at another time. Yeah. So that's kind of all I wanted to say.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So sorry to hear this. Your nephew?
Yes.
This your nephew?
25 minutes.
Yes, and that's important for, that you are an advocate.
Yes.
For, I'm sorry, Lori?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question over here.
Oh, okay. It's important that you are being an advocate for him.
Yes.
And I just want to also mention that the Prince George's County Police, Bowie has their own police department, but for Autism Acceptance Month, they were giving away 500 kits for free that had things such as communication cards for people who were not able to communicate or speak up for themselves. They had sensory objects in the kits. They had a number of different things in the kits. I don't know how long they're going to be giving them away, but I know that they were giving them away this month. Okay. There's another question here, and then we're going to wrap it up. We have one more minute.
First of all, hello everyone. My name is Gabrielle Davis. I'm the president of
An agency for the deaf, and I'm also a board member of trustees.
the board member where Terese sits on that board.
Time permitting, deaf people now, they're saying things like deaf positive, deaf plus autistic. I'm deaf as well as being ADHD. It's sort of a new vernacular. It's new terminology, and it's really taking notice, and it's really getting some movement. And the word deaf plus is something that needs to be respected. It's different, yes, but it's also nice that they have the opportunity to have that alliance. There's a deaf organization called Dawn. Dawn is an agency that does services within the Washington metropolitan area in DC, Virginia, Maryland, and Baltimore. And what is it for? It's for deaf people, women specifically, and men, it doesn't really matter. In the Delaware, Washington domestic violence.
It's called Deaf Abused Women's Network, and it's established in DC. And the other thing I would like to ask, if I could, to you, and I'm just wondering if you could, with respect to TV production and that sort of thing, have you ever had something like produced, maybe a TV show or film, with disabilities, diverse disabilities being explained?
Yes, I definitely have. I've done lots and lots of commercials. I used to work for Black Entertainment Television, and I have used my niece in things. I've used my daughter in things, and I've also gone outside of that community. I actually used to edit because BET is right around the corner from Gallaudet. And we used to edit there at Gallaudet's facility, and it was absolutely wonderful. Gallaudet used to, I don't know if they still do, but that was like maybe 20 years ago, but Gallaudet used to have free ASL classes for people in the community that wanted to connect with people who were deaf. And to answer the woman's statement from before, I do feel like we need, for people with abilities, I do feel like we need some kind of social network, some kind of way to socialize, to not feel so isolated. I know Desi is isolated. I know my niece is isolated. I know at times I feel isolated and I want to do different things, and that is a main concern for a lot of people on the spectrum, a lot of people who are deaf. You do feel isolated, so why not find ways to get together and not just talk at each other, but commune like people do. And I think that that's just a necessity. I know that there's online groups and things of that nature, but I like being here in front of people and seeing faces and learning about one another, and I think that everybody should have the opportunity to do that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the question.
Oh, we have another question.
No, I was just saying thank you.
Oh, there's another question. Lori, do we have a few more minutes? How are we on our time? One more question, and then I'll let Mayor Adams close us out. Okay? Excuse me.
Hello, everyone. My name is William. I prefer to go by Stephen. I'm representing PGCAD, and I'm concerned because visual communication, well, I'm that type of person. Social media, for example, when I moved here, I was really excited, but I noticed there were no captioning. And I wanted captioning. I thought that would be great to be inclusive for everyone. And so I reached out to see if we could get that, and finally that was a part of what we norm. We got captioning so that people in the deaf community could be involved and they could know what's going on in the city. They can stay connected with the news and to feel invited and feel a part of it. But in terms of social media and TV and news, you know, I am happy that captioning has become a thing of the way, so I just wanted to make that comment.
Okay, thank you. And just for clarification, you said PGCAP, I'm assuming PGC is Prince George's County.
PGCAD, Prince George's County Association.
Association, AD, okay. Sometimes closed captioning, it came up as AP. Sometimes it doesn't come out in exactly the way we say things, and so we have to make sure that we clarify as well, even with the closed captioning. Okay, thank you. Okay, Mayor Adams?
You know, overall, I'd just like to say thank you from the community services, from the committee and all, just really having an opportunity for us to gather and, as you say, commune and talk about who we are and make sure that people recognize us as just part of the community. I do say there's one thing I hope, and now I'm speaking as mayor, and that is when people come to the city, that they no longer have to look for any kind of special accommodations because those will be already intertwined with everything we do already. That when we talk about our different communities and the different needs that we have, that becomes a part of what we do every day. And so it's something that we work into the fabric of who we are as a community, that we remove that. You know, one of the things I'm very proud of with community services, it doesn't mean a lot to a lot of people who don't understand it, but having an adult change table, for example, at Allen Pond, you know, it means an opportunity for more people to get out and to enjoy that and to be a part of that. So that's my thing. I talk about the accommodations we're trying to do, but I want to make sure that we as a city can become that city where it's not a request of special accommodations, that we've tried to address most needs of all of our community and ahead of time. So again, thank you for being here and thank you for sharing to all the panelists and to you for coming here and showing your support and being a part of the community.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, all of our panelists. And thank you, Mayor Adams, for allowing the Diversity Committee to have these conversations with the community to increase our understanding so that we can, and learn that we have to be advocates and we have to communicate so that we are able to get what everybody needs to be successful. And thank you. Tiffany is the brainchild of this community conversations, our diversity chair, so I want to thank you as well. But thank everyone for attending tonight. We will certainly think about having a part 2, as you all said, because this was a very enriching community conversation. And there are refreshments out in the hallway, so please help yourselves as you leave today. Thank you again.
I think it would be appropriate if we could, that we give a round of applause for the Diversity Committee for putting this together.
Thank you all. Please let us know if you have ideas for future conversations. We would love to eventually pack these spaces to have more and more community members participate. So if you have any ideas, if you want to be on a panel, you have something that you want to talk about, please keep us posted and let us know.
Thank you.
Thank you.